So 2020's been pretty stressful, you know. Work schedule changes, new jobs, and things like that, kind of being stuck in the same place for a while. So I think it's about high time to take a break and get away for a while.
I'm Gary, and this is Coasting with Culture. I like to combine theme park visits and riding roller coasters with various cultural experiences around the world. 2020 has been a challenging year for many people. I can attest to the difficulties of it because of missing out on the tour guide job I've had for 3.5 years that I absolutely loved. And more recently, the new position I got with a local transportation company to fill in for it hasn't been the most stable position I've had. So I decided it was time to take a break from the chaos while taking advantage of a reduced schedule I was given for the week to go on a coaster credit-seeking road trip in the Midwest, starting with a flight to Springfield, Missouri, and making a loop with several stops along the way. As my roommate brought me to the airport, it had dawned on me that this has been the longest time that I'd gone without a flight in about 5 years. This was going to be another standby trip similar to when I went to Costa Rica last year, or made my emergency visit to Miami from Ecuador earlier this year. So, I would be flying with American Airlines. While it was still early in the morning, I wasn't used to seeing so few people at SeaTac Airport, although with the lower amount of air travel right now, I wasn't surprised. Flights for American Airlines would normally be out of the D terminal, but as the airport tries to encourage social distancing, and with fewer international flights going on right now, this flight would board using one of the South Satellite gates, which gave the opportunity to see the Alaska Airlines hangar with planes inside going through maintenance. Going to Springfield, Missouri for the start of this trip meant a connecting flight over to Chicago, and as luck would have it, there were enough empty seats in first class that I was given one of them for this flight, making a more comfortable experience. On the way to the runway, we passed underneath the new bridge connecting the South Satellite with the main terminal building that will allow passengers to see planes pass underneath them when it's complete. Because of the weather turning cooler for the coming fall, there was a fog in the neighboring valleys around the airport, which made for some interesting views once we got into the air. Fortunately, this fog didn't prevent the great morning view of Mount Rainier. Because of the amount of fog in the area, in some cases it gave the illusion that the nearby Puget Sound and Lake Washington were both larger than they actually are. After trying to catch a snooze on the plane for a while, the view outside was the familiar grassy lands of the Midwest, which in time would lead to the coast of Lake Michigan, giving a neat view of downtown Chicago to the south in the distance.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Chicago, where the local time is 11:49 a.m. On behalf of your Chicago-based flight crew, we thank you for flying with us today.
Looking at the most recent flight load for the next flight that I'm hoping to catch, it is looking pretty good as they're showing about 10 empty seats. So I think I'm going to be able to get on there and make it to my next stop.
While the plane for the second flight was much smaller, it worked out that there were a few available seats, so I could head over to Springfield as planned for my escape. As we taxied to the runway, I got excited because I saw the Lufthansa 747 that was the special 1500th built by Boeing. I happened to see this plane before when I was waiting for a connecting flight in Buenos Aires during my South America trip earlier this year. This flight was great for spotting places I could easily recognize. Not only was downtown Chicago easy to see, but I also spotted the Chicagoland Speedway as we passed by it. Then a bit further into the flight, we saw a fairly large airport that I wasn't sure which one it was until I looked a bit further east and saw downtown St. Louis, confirming that it was Lambert International Airport. Before long, we would land in Springfield, adding another new airport that I've flown in or out of.
It is our pleasure to welcome you to Springfield. The local time is 3 o'clock. On behalf of your Chicago-based crew, American Airlines, and 111 partners, we thank you for flying with us today. We hope to see you again soon. Have a wonderful afternoon.
And now that I've made it to Springfield, Missouri, it's time to go for a road trip.
Because of the schedules of different parks given the time of year and the current pandemic situation, I didn't plan to hit any major parks on this trip. Rather, I wanted to get some of the smaller places knocked off my to-do list. The first stops of the trip would take me to Branson, where I would head to the other side of town to visit the Branson Mountain Adventure Park for the trip's first coaster. That first coaster would be the Runaway Mountain Coaster, the longer of the two mountain coasters here in the Ozark Mountains. It was hard to see much of the ride from the entrance building since it goes pretty deep into the woods. It also covers a lot of ground as it has a total track length of over 4,000 feet.
So let me tell you, this was a fun mountain coaster, the Runaway Mountain Coaster. It's by the Aquatic Design Group, and in my experience with riding their version of mountain coasters, they tend to be a bit more rickety, so it takes away from the experience sometimes as it's not as smooth as the Huygens, but this one was still really fun. It was almost as if the bumpiness to it made it more extreme, if you will. It almost gave it the feel of like being on an old wooden coaster in a sense. And I think that kind of added to it. And there were a couple of hills that were little bunny hops, but it was nice little pops here, and whatnot. Ooh, that was fun. This is probably my favorite of the Aquatic Group Design mountain coasters. And so far, the best credit of this trip.
The second stop of the day was for another mountain coaster located in a complex called Branson Sawmill. The sawmill features a star flyer which offers an elevated view of the area. At its base, there's a large patio area where visitors can watch the riders of the star flyer as well as the Branson coaster as it rolls down the side of the hill starting right out of the station at the top, as opposed to most mountain coasters which start at the bottom of the hill. But that wasn't the only thing that set this mountain coaster apart from others.
This might actually be one of the most ingenious designs for one of these mountain coasters because you look at the space that it sits on and it's not incredibly large. I mean, there's really just kind of this plot of land just down to the bottom of the hill, and it's not a huge hill. The kicker is that there's a second lift hill. So this is the first lift you come up to when you leave the station, you get to the bottom of the hill, you come up this lift hill, and then you get to do it a second time in a different kind of course. It's a slightly different layout. They do kind of go side by side in a couple of spots, and sometimes if it's timed right with other riders, you get a little bit of racing action, so it's a lot of fun. It's a little bit on the shorter side like some other mountain coasters, but it's unique because of that aspect of the dueling tracks, and that's a really cool touch.
I added a last-minute stop based on a recommendation from a friend of mine to visit Bigfoot Fun Center, home of a 200-foot-tall drop tower named the Gravity Bomb. This was far from my first drop tower, but it was a very different experience given the use of only seatbelts for the restraints.
Just got off of the Gravity Bomb here at Bigfoot Fun Park. I'm pretty sure I just shit my pants. That thing was nuts. The way that there's nothing to hold on to and it's just a seatbelt that you're wearing. Oh my God, that was insane. And then on top of that, they added a touch of having music on it, playing a song by, oh God, I can't remember who it was. But they have the music that goes along with it, the big drum beat that goes up there, and then as it drops, it's the ooh, ah! And then it just drops all of a sudden. Whew! That's a good rush. That'll keep me awake until I get to the hotel tonight.
Unfortunately, Silver Dollar City wasn't open this day, so with the first 2 coasters ridden and a bonus stop made, I drove for a few hours to St. Louis where I would crash for the night before continuing the next morning. Day 2 was a marathon day as it included 2 5+ hour drives. The first which began in St. Louis and continued across Illinois and Indiana, passing by Holiday World, which was only open weekends at this point, and proceeding into Kentucky to Lexington for Malibu Jacks. This family entertainment center features mini golf, electric go-karts, and a wide selection of arcade games. But I came here to collect the first Shameless coaster credit of the trip, Twist and Shout, one of many SBF Visa spinning coasters that have opened around the world over the past few years. From there, I backtracked to Louisville, and upon arrival, it was time for the second location of Malibu Jacks. Like the first one, they have mini golf, electric go-karts, and a large arcade. Of course, they also have a Shameless coaster credit called Twist and Shout, another SBF Visa spinner.
Both of these Malibu Jack locations are really nice FECs. I know they're fairly new, and so there's a little bit of that newness to it, but from the looks of it though, they put a lot of attention into the detail, some bits of theming and things like that. They're both very similar to each other, so going to either one, you'll have a fairly similar experience. The pricing appears to be the same as well. So I'm happy to get 2 credits, and now it's time to continue on to see if we can find more.
It would have been nice to get to Kentucky Kingdom, as I've yet to ride Kentucky Flyer, but it too is in weekend operations for the year. So I went south toward Nashville, then continued back to the west toward Memphis, where I would find Memphis's Incredible Pizza Company. This chain offers a pizza buffet, which I skipped out on, heading right to their entertainment area, which consists of an arcade like the last 2 stops, but also features a few smaller rides. Of course, this stop was for another Shameless coaster credit, the 3rd straight SBF Visa spinner called Spin Roller Coaster. A day which started at 5:30 in the morning would end at 12:30 at night in Russellville, Arkansas. And with over 1,000 miles of driving that day, I was wiped out.
If everything goes as I hope, I should be able to add at least a few more spinning coasters. Now, if the spinning coasters from yesterday are of any indication, these ones will be pretty shameless.
The 3rd day of this road trip began with checking off an item from my places to visit list.
So, about 20 minutes ago, I did something I've never done before. And depending on who you ask, I probably crossed the line when I did it. And that's because about 20 minutes ago, I went to Oklahoma. It's a state where I have never been till now.
With crossing into Oklahoma, now I've only got a handful of states left, as that leaves me with 5 to go. That's going to be Louisiana, Mississippi, Rhode Island, Nebraska, and Alaska. Like several of the other larger parks, Frontier City was in weekend operation only at this point. But there were still coasters to find, starting with Oklahoma City's incredible pizza company. Like its Memphis counterpart, they have a buffet that I passed on, heading right to the entertainment area, where, like the previous day's stops, there was an arcade, along with a few rides and indoor go-karts. And just like each of the previous day's stops, it was another shameless SBF Visa spinner that I came for, although this one had a minor hiccup.
I gotta wait patiently because of the time schedule that they have for the rides here, so.
During the weekdays, they have limited staffing and operations, so if you come hoping to get the credit, be prepared to possibly wait for a little bit before riding.
Step right up to the incredible spinning roller coaster. If you want to thrill of a lifetime, let's go over some rules.
Actually, it's way more simple than that.
Eventually, though, I did get to make it 4 straight shameless credits, all SBF Visa spinners. From Oklahoma City, there was one last stop on my planned itinerary, less than 2 hours over in Tulsa, as it was a 3rd consecutive incredible pizza company. Just like the last 2, I went right for the Fun Center, though this may be one of the largest ones in the chain, with a small trampoline park to go along with their arcade. Plus, they have glow-in-the-dark mini golf. And while they have go-karts, just like the last 4 stops, I was here for yet another SBF Visa spinner. I don't know if I've ridden so many coasters of the same model consecutively, although there was a point in South America where it seemed like I was riding nothing but wacky worms in Peru. After getting a 5th consecutive Visa spinner, it was time to head back to Springfield to get ready to head home. Or was it? Thank you for watching this Coastin' with Culture video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button below to see future videos here on YouTube, like these ones, which you may enjoy as well. Additional content can be found at coastingwithculture.com, and you can also follow Coasting with Culture on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for announcements, previews, and updates. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care and safe travels.